Morning, it's Martin, Martin's Engine Services. Just making a little update video this morning on the Morris Minor I went to look at yesterday, which I mentioned in Wednesday's What's Happening in the Workshop. Well, that turned into be something quite interesting. Part of the problem was related to the fact it got wet, but the other problem, which is the more pressing problem, had been created by the kind people at the car show who went launching into action and went a jiggling around and meddling with things they shouldn't have done. And the combination also of the previous installation of the distributor, which wasn't done by myself, and some slightly strange adjustments and bits that have been done. So, on to the first phase of the operation. So the first phase of the operation was to trace what happened. There was a small amount of voltage reaching the coil. Oh yes, it's more tea. There was a small amount of voltage reaching the coil, but as soon as you tried to turn it over, that simply wasn't happening. The starter solenoid was taking too much current. I worked this back to a corroded connection on the dynamo control box. Now, for all of you under about 50, you may have to Google dynamo control box. Basically, it says the car has a dynamo which will charge probably up to about 60 odd volts, and the control box basically regulates this and switches it on and off as required. And they just happen to use this as a handy junction box for joining various wires. So I cleaned off the connection, a terminal, fitted a new terminal end, bingo, away we go. It cranks over lovely, but no spark. I thought, okay. So the electronic unit fitted into this vehicle, I've drawn a very rudimentary diagram of how it all works here. And basically what you've got is a coil here. You've got 12 volts coming in from the car ignition switch. Then there's a 12 volt supply down to the ignition control unit. There's like a little black box lives in here. And then there's another wire coming out which connects to the minus side of the coil. And inside this unit, it's basically like an electronic set of points. There's this disc mounted on the shaft, which rotates, and there's a little notch in here, 4 of them, obviously 4-cylinder, which then corresponds with a little sensor on the electronic pickup. Obviously, there's power coming in here, and then of course it collapses the field. This in turn collapses the field in the coil, and the coil, of course, fires out the distributor cap. Now, when they've installed this obviously 12 volt supply is also switched, and you just hook it to the spare terminal on the coil. Now, I'm looking at this thinking, some enthusiastic soul at the car show has put the positive onto the negative side of the coil, and they've put the basically the control wire, I suppose you call it, onto the positive side. And of course, they've now fed reverse polarity into this little unit, which I presume simply let the smoke out, and that was the end of that. Because they did actually get it to start briefly, and it coughed and spluttered and died, and that was the end of it. So, okay, I mean the wires had continuity as far as here, but there was no circuit through this, there was no resistance, so I presume the coil was basically fried. So I said to him, okay, let's get the points one. I go to remove this, and where it sits on the clamp at the bottom, it was literally in by about 1/2 mil and could have fell out any moment. So put the points one in, timed it up by eye. And that disc obviously does dead simple. You've got a set of points in here. You've got the wire leading to the negative side of the coil, and you've got the positive side, the ignition switch, obviously the main lead. Simple thing, points up, it builds up charge, points, Martin, that's better. Points open, collapses the field in the coil, bang, spark comes out, distributor cap, down the spark plug, bang, engine runs. So this quite horribly made Chinese aftermarket electronic ignition is now kaput. That's finished. Put all this back in. Great. It works. I took the spark plugs out, and the guy who put the distributor in had also gapped the plugs to practically no gap. And he'd also fitted new needle in the carburetor and had got it running so rich it was almost running on neat fuel. So I didn't have a timing light with me or anything, so I timed it up by ear, and being a trusty old A series, it ran absolutely lovely and it burbled nice, it revved up sweet. Then we moved on to noticing yet again that another one of these quality Chinese Lucas ignition coils, and I'm going to tell you more about them in a minute, had basically leaked the oil out. It's all over the dynamo, all over the distributor cap. Now, the saga of those is, here was the first one he had, which was about 8-9 months ago. This mounts on top of the dynamo on the Morris Minor at this angle, distributor's back here, and it simply leaked all the oil out around the crimping, and the fan blew it over everything. So he got on to supplier. They said, oh no, never had a problem with those. Must have, we'll send you one free of charge. There it is, one with the cross on it. Bolted it on. This survived about a month before it leaked all the oil around the top. And you can see by how bad the crimping is, and the oil's just everywhere. So he rang them up again, and they said, oh, it must be a bad batch. We'll send you another one. That's been on there about a month. No, sorry. Yes, about a month. However, this time, I made a bracket, and I bolted it to the side of the dynamo. The dynamo sits here, in the upright position. Right. And when I looked at it yesterday, it's all soaked with oil down here. It's coming out here, and it's blown all over everything. So we took the other one off, which he's still got, and threw it away. And then I got out his original 1968 Lucas coil. Lucas made in England, Birmingham. Put it on the engine, in the new bracket position. Lovely spark, engine runs perfectly, all back to original. So the old 1968 distributor's back in and working fine. Clamps on properly, new set of spark plugs gapped properly. Twiddle the mixture, and it runs like an A-series should. It bobbles along happily, runs as sweet as can be. You can always tell with an A-series if it's happy because it'll sound sweet. So he said some foul language about the man at the car show, and then said, right, all that lot is junk. He's never going near it again. Lesson learned. We will keep the original. Now I've kept these two coils because they still work fine, and I'll use them on a stationary engine. They don't run long enough to be a problem, but this is what you're dealing with. Cheap junk. The only other thing he's going to do is pop a new set of HT leads on. They look a bit ancient, and that's about it. So otherwise it's all back to running. Basically no new parts required, simply stick back on all the quality old parts. So he's a lovely old gentleman. He's got a lovely little garage, he keeps the car in. It's full of memorabilia and signs and lots of interesting stuff. And we spent the afternoon doing a sort of men in the shed, a few cups of tea, a few bickies, tinkering with the Morris. So it was actually a very enjoyable afternoon. And he's an interesting character, and he's got a really wide knowledge of the area, and he knows lots of stuff. And he's one of them lovable characters. So I do enjoy having a chat to dear old Richard. So that's what we put. We put it all back to original, how it worked when it left the factory. Lovely Chinesey stuff here. It's absolute junk. It may look pretty, it may look shiny, it may look good. You might win the show and shine, but you've got to push it home. So lesson learned. So I'm just on welding up the Honda at the moment. I've done a couple more patches. It's going to be a warm one today, and I don't want to be doing any more welding underneath. So I just thought I'd give you an update on this Morris Minor saga and saga of interesting things and many hands helping. I don't know whether the ignition unit had actually failed when he said it run badly and cut out. Don't know, it could have been the wire breaking down. But of course there was enough voltage going to the coil to simply fry the unit. As I said previously, I did put when I presume there's some sort of coil in here or winding, and I did run an ohm meter across here, and it's open circuit, so I guess the little Chinese box went to pump, and that was the end of that. So, hope you enjoyed this little update. It's just what I found, and I've had yet another whinge about parts from you know where. And that's all, I'll leave it now. So, please like and subscribe. Any thoughts on the subject, or if you found these problems with these parts, please feel free to comment. It's always appreciated. And again, thanks for watching, and bye for now.